Why life feels so serious and why it's all an illusion. Chapter 1. The simulation of seriousness. You wake up in a world that tells you everything matters. Your choices, your status, your success, all weighted like cosmic exams. You've been trained to believe there's a scoreboard somewhere. And if you mess up, you'll lose the only game that counts. But there is no scoreboard. There is only the player. Pretending to forget. The human nervous system is a masterpiece of illusion. It was built to keep a body alive, not to keep a soul awake. Every anxiety you feel, every urge to control, is a survival code from an ancient game. A game about food, safety, and tribe. Your brain's default mode network creates a running story called You, a character designed to manage uncertainty. And like any great method actor, you believe your role completely. The seriousness you feel isn't truth. It's neurochemistry, cortisol, dopamine, adrenaline, a cascade of signals that once kept your ancestors from becoming lunch. Now those same circuits make you panic over emails and expectations. You are playing a survival game on hardware designed for tigers, running 21st century software full of social comparison and imagined danger. But here's the twist. The entire system, the body, the emotions, the fear, isn't a mistake, it's part of the simulation. Quantum physics reveals that the universe isn't solid. It's probabilities waiting for observation, a field of potential awaiting focus. You are the observer collapsing that potential into form, so when you take life too seriously, you're narrowing your frequency bandwidth to the densest possible field: matter, effort, resistance. When you lighten, when you play, the wave function expands, and life begins to respond with synchronicities instead of obstacles. Spiritual traditions have known this for millennia. In Sanskrit, they called it Leela, the divine play through which consciousness explores itself. The Buddha called it Maya, the illusion that things are separate and consequential. Quantum mechanics simply updated the language. Everything is energy in flux, temporarily pretending to be structure. So what if your job, your identity, your relationships are not weighty cosmic obligations, but carefully crafted missions in a simulation designed for awakening? Each challenge, each heartbreak, each triumph is not punishment or reward. It's data. The field learns through your response. You are not being tested. You are being trained in awareness. Children already know this. Watch how they play. With full intensity, but no attachment. They die dramatically, resurrect instantly, and laugh at the chaos. They don't ask, "Am I winning?" They ask, "Are we still playing?" That's the natural state of consciousness before conditioning sets in, before the seriousness glitch becomes the default operating system. So here's the first rule of the quantum game. The moment you remember it's play, you shift realities, not metaphorically, physically. Your brain's electromagnetic field changes frequency. Your cells release tension. Your perception of possibility expands. The universe is not watching you. It's playing through you, testing how well you remember that. When you remember, life stops being heavy. It becomes music again. And you, the player, finally start to dance. Chapter 2. The character and the player. The person you call me is a role so convincing, it fools its own actor. You wake up every morning and log back into the costume. The name, the memories, the history you guard like sacred code. But the truth is simpler and stranger. The self you defend so fiercely is an avatar in a simulation of consciousness. Neuroscience calls it the default mode network, the cluster of brain regions that creates a continuous sense of I. It stitches your past into a coherent story, editing, deleting, inventing, just to maintain the illusion of stability. But you are not that story. You are the awareness watching the story unfold. Think of it like this. The character is the waveform collapsed. The player is the field of infinite potential that holds every possibility at once. Quantum mechanics calls that state superposition, all outcomes existing simultaneously until one is observed. Your consciousness is the observer. Your attention is the choice. Every time you believe a thought, you collapse potential into personality. Every time you question a belief, you reopen the field. So, who is the real you? Not the face in the mirror. That's a projection of light and memory, not the inner narrator. That's the echo of your social conditioning. You are the field itself, the witnessing awareness that experiences all possible selves. You are not inside the game. The game is inside you. Spiritual science knew this before physics could measure it. Mystics said, Tattvamasi, thou art that. The consciousness behind your eyes is the same one behind mine and behind every form that appears. Only the masks differ. The actor is eternal, and the roles are temporary data sets of experience. Psychologically, this insight changes everything. When you stop over-identifying with the avatar, you gain creative control of the script. You no longer say, I am anxious. You say, anxiety is appearing in the field of awareness. The shift sounds small, but it reprograms your neurochemistry. The body relaxes, the emotion dissolves. You return to the player's seat. Every thought you have is a brushstroke on the screen of the field. When you think consciously, you create consciously. When you think unconsciously, you run inherited programs. That's the difference between karmas and creation. The game changes when you stop asking, what is life doing to me? And start asking, what am I creating through my focus? Your character is the instrument. Your consciousness is the musician. Mastery is learning to play your instrument without confusing yourself for the music. And once you glimpse this truth, even for a breath, you begin to laugh softly, knowingly, because the game suddenly looks familiar. It feels like remembering a dream where you were both the hero and the author. That's the moment the player wakes up inside the play. And from then on, every move, every line, every twist becomes a deliberate act of art. Chapter 3. The Physics of Flow. Flow is the language the universe speaks when you finally stop interrupting it. It begins the moment you stop trying to control the script and start listening to the rhythm beneath events, because underneath every thought, every action, there's a pulse, a frequency, a current, the living hum of energy organizing itself into experience. Science calls it coherence. Mystics call it alignment. It's the same thing. Consciousness synchronized with the field. When you enter flow, your brain switches channels, from the beta noise of thinking to the deep harmonic blend of alpha and theta. Your prefrontal cortex, the part that worries, the part that judges and separates, goes quiet. The walls between self and world thin. Your heartbeat, your breath, your focus, all merge into one seamless movement. You're not doing anymore. You're being done. Physicists would tell you it's resonance, two frequencies vibrating at the same rate until they merge into one standing wave. Your consciousness becomes the standing wave, and reality rearranges to match its pattern. This is how manifestation works, not through force, but frequency. Emotion is the charge, intention is the direction. Together, they create coherence in the field. When you resist, you generate friction. When you surrender, you generate flow. Resistance collapses energy. Flow amplifies it. That's why things that feel right move faster, smoother, cleaner. It's not luck, it's physics. Imagine the universe as a vast ocean of potential. Waves within waves, every possibility alive in vibration. When your internal frequency matches a certain wave, you don't chase it, you become it. This is why serendipity follows stillness, why solutions appear when you stop searching. The field doesn't respond to effort, it responds to coherence. Even your body is proof. Your heart's electromagnetic field extends several feet beyond your skin. It broadcasts your emotional frequency, entraining the systems around you, people, events, probabilities. That's why you feel someone's energy before they speak a word. Your field recognizes resonance. It's ancient physics masquerading as intuition flow, then. Isn't mystical escape. It's scientific participation. Your biology syncing with universal geometry. Every creative act, every insight, every miracle is born from this union of focus and surrender. It's not about trying harder. It's about attuning finer. When you live from this state, you become transparent to the field. Action feels effortless. Synchronicities multiply, time bends, hours vanish into minutes, and life begins to move with you instead of against you. Flow isn't something you enter. It's what you are when the noise stops. It's the original frequency of creation before the mind divided the music into measures. And once you taste that current, the seamless unity between intention and unfolding, you realize you were never meant to force the game. You were meant to dance with it. Chapter 4. The Multiplayer. Illusion. You think you're surrounded by other people. But what if you're surrounded by other yous? Every person you meet, friend, enemy, lover, stranger, is a mirror fragment of the same field of consciousness, refracted through different lenses of memory and form. There are not billions of separate minds. There is one awareness, playing hide and seek with itself through infinite perspectives. This is not poetry. It's physics. Quantum entanglement shows that once two particles interact, their states remain linked, no matter how far apart they travel. Change one, and the other reacts instantly. Space and time are not barriers. They're just the illusion of distance between mirrors. You are entangled with every form you perceive. When you love, you feel that entanglement consciously. When you hate, you deny it. But the field doesn't care what story you tell. It simply reflects coherence or distortion. Neuroscience even gives you evidence. Mirror neurons. Your brain fires the same patterns when you see someone act as when you act yourself. Empathy isn't sentiment, it's circuitry. The universe has literally wired you to recognize yourself in others. That's why compassion feels like truth. It's resonance across identities. It's one waveform remembering its unity. The multiplayer illusion exists to make the game interesting. Without apparent separation, there could be no relationship, no story, no exploration of difference. The one became many, so that it could fall in love with itself again and again. But here's the trick. Whatever you believe about others is a command to the field about yourself. Judgment collapses the mirror into limitation. Acceptance expands it into reflection. When you condemn another, you reinforce that vibration in your own frequency. When you forgive, you dissolve the illusion of polarity. Every conflict, every argument, every heartbreak is consciousness practicing reconciliation. A cosmic feedback loop teaching you how to see the one inside the many. Energy science calls this coherence. When groups meditate, pray, or feel gratitude together, their electromagnetic fields synchronize. Heartbeats align. Brainwaves harmonize. Cities grow calmer. Crime rates drop. It's measurable. Reality literally stabilizes when enough players remember they're on the same team. So the question isn't who's right. The question is, what frequency are we generating together? Because whatever we vibrate, the field amplifies. The master players know this. They don't argue with mirrors. They tune them. They walk through the world, adjusting their own frequency until even chaos becomes choreography. The next time someone triggers you, remember, that's you in another costume, playing the role you needed to remember your balance. You can react, or you can realign. Both are moves in the same game, but only one increases your score in awareness. And when you start seeing others as windows into your own vast self, the illusion doesn't end, it transforms. The game stops being competition and becomes collaboration. A multiplayer dream where everyone wins the moment one of us wakes up. Chapter 5. Death and the Level Reset. Every game must end, or you'd never remember it was a game. And so, life invented death, the great reset, the soft reboot of consciousness. To the character, it looks like an ending. To the player, it's a save point. Biology calls it entropy, the gradual loss of order as systems dissolve back into balance. Physics calls it energy conservation, nothing lost, only transformed. Mystics call it return, consciousness shedding its costume to rest in the unbroken field. No matter which language you choose, the truth is the same. What you are cannot die, because what you are never began. When the heartbeat stops, when the neurons flicker and fade, what disappears is the avatar, the interface, the user skin. But awareness doesn't shut off. It unplugs from the local simulation and expands back into the network, the field that holds all experience in potential form. You've already done this countless times. Every night in deep sleep, the character dissolves. No name, no identity, no goal. And yet, every morning, the field boots up another round. You reappear, slightly new, slightly rearranged. Proof that consciousness has no fixed location. Quantum physicists glimpse this too. Information, they say, cannot be destroyed, not even by a black hole. It simply reconfigures its encoding. The same field that generates you also reabsorbs you. And when the game calls for a new chapter, it projects you again. Another name, another story, another adventure. To the mind, that sounds abstract. To the soul, it feels like home. The near-death experiencers, the meditators lost in stillness, the mystics who have stepped beyond the edge. They all describe the same thing. A luminous awareness, infinite and familiar, as if you were remembering something you'd never truly forgotten. From there, everything you've ever feared becomes comedy. The losses, the heartbreaks, the mistakes. They're just plot points in a holographic novel that never ends. When one role completes, you don't vanish. You transition. You respawn in another level of the same infinite field. So the question isn't, what happens when I die? It's, what happens when I stop pretending I'm alive in only one form? When you understand this, you stop clinging to your storyline. You start playing freely. You forgive faster. You laugh easier. You live like someone who knows they'll get another turn. Because you will death if isn't the opposite of life. It's the pulse that makes life possible. The silence between heartbeats, the inhale before another creation. The player never dies, only the mask dissolves. Only the dream changes scenery. And when that curtain falls, you'll remember, it was never punishment. It was play, an infinite consciousness exploring itself through time, forgetting and remembering over and over, until even forgetting becomes another way to love.